Welcome to yet another episode of Finally Game Music, and this is the episode 130 on the thematic of hack and slash. Your host today is me, Kristoffer Schenström, and I will try and make the best out of this one. Hack and slash. This is one of my favorite genres when it comes to mind. And mostly because of the game you can hear here in the background. Some of you may not recognize this tune, but some of you guys may do that. This is the Tristram tune from the Diablo series. You can hear this one in the first, second... No, it's actually just first and the third game. Now that I come to think of it. Oh, I'm making a mess already here at the beginning. But yeah, hack and slash. This is just those kind of games and genres of games where you basically just hack and slash through hordes and yet again many hordes of different enemies. It could be demons, it could be angels, it could be like anything between heaven and hell. I could basically just say that could kind of summarize it all. And I have a testimonial for this week that kind of sums this one up, so I don't want to go into too many details specifically on what's going on with this one. So for this week, I have chosen yet again 2 songs myself, and I have 2 requested songs for this week's episode. So let's start with the first one. So let me give you Ragnar's Journey from the game Rune. The deep drums we were hearing right now was from the game Rune, and the song's title was Ragnar's Journey. So this soundtrack was created by 3 composers in total. Jim B. Ray, who I did not actually find out where he's from. I think he might be a Canadian, maybe an American, but I'm a little bit unsure there, so I didn't find any evidence of where he comes from the beginning. But then we have the Canadians Mike Larson and Rom DiPresco. The game, it was developed by the American studio Human Head Studios and was released by the year 2000 on PC and Mac. The game was also the year after also released for Linux and also the PlayStation 2. When it comes to the different composers here, we will start out with Jim first. So Jim's first games was actually the Extreme Sports Arcade Summer Edition game for PC that released in 1999. Interesting studio behind it, Way Forward Technologies. Maybe you heard of it, I don't know. This is a pretty interesting studio, so it was actually quite fun to just go into the game and just see who the hell was behind it. So I was very, very surprised, to be honest, to see Way Forward being active for such a long time. But after the Extreme Sports Arcade game, the next game was Rune, and followed up with the re-releases such as the classic release in 2000, but he also worked on 2 other games that he has on his credit list. There are Carnivore's Ice Age that released in 2001 and Dead Man's Hand that released in 2004. The second composer here, Michael, the first game he worked on was the Rebel Moon game from 1995, and just like Jim, he also worked on Extreme Sports Arcade Summer Edition as well. And he did a whole work on a bunch of games as well, such as Carnivores 2 from 1999, Blair Witch Volume 2, The Legend of Coffin Rock from 2000, and also Dead Man's Hand 2004. On Rune, he is both credited as the director and producer as well, not just the composer here for a different kind of songs throughout the OST. And the third and last composer here on this soundtrack, Rom's a veteran out of these three. He started out with Need for Speed 2 Special Edition back in 1997, and he also worked on multiple games that I already said on both Jim and Michael. But we also have a lot of different other credits, such as racing games and sports games here for Rom. More games in the Need for Speed series, such as the Hot Pursuit from 1998, High Stakes from 1999, Porsche Unleashed from 2000, and Hot Pursuit 2 in 2002. The latest game he has worked on was Guacamelee 2, which was released in 2018. And when it comes to the music in this game, all the different music are more to the kind of more ambient kind of take when it comes to the music. Still has this kind of depth to it, also more a little bit rocky sometimes. I really like the music when I'm listening to it today, because I haven't talked about it really in this podcast when I started making this in English, but I have told it multiple times as I have progressed with the Swedish version of this podcast. And when it comes to this, when I grew up, I actually grew up listening to a lot of other music. So usually when I played games, I didn't actually listen to the music itself from the games, because usually it would disturb my parents in some way, or maybe I'm getting disturbed by any other person in the household playing music by themselves. So usually when I played games, I usually just put the volume to 0, and then I just enjoyed whatever music was going on inside the house. So it's kind of an experience for me getting back to all these different games today and experiencing for the first time most of the times as well. So it's super interesting getting back and trying to listen to this with a new set of mind, especially when it comes to music today in the modern era. Having to listen to all these old classic songs that people really enjoyed sometimes feels very new and fresh to me, while other people can just be tired of them already, listening to them so many times. So sometimes it actually feels like I'm the last one on the football here getting to it. But the Rune game was something that I held close to my heart when I grew up. I really enjoyed this game. This is an adventure game, but also a really fun multiplayer game. But this is a third-person camera, and you're hacking and slashing away by grabbing different kind of weapons, such as one-handed swords, hammers, two-handed swords and hammers, and axes and everything. And what I really like about this game is you can basically chop off limbs and arms and legs and everything from other people, and even the enemies when you play in solo. Not everybody, but when it comes to the more humanoid parts of enemies, you can definitely just chop off their stuff and pick up like their heads and stuff like that, and you can start like swinging away with the limbs instead of using swords and such. And each and every sword, especially when you play multiplayer, have power-ups as well, so you can start collecting resources, and you can utilize some sort of I would say like a berserk kind of power, but it all depends on depending on which type of weapon you have. So each weapon has a unique skill that you can utilize when you're playing. So some of them have shockwaves, some of them have increased attack speeds and such. Shields, and in combination with different swords, can sometimes make like an ethereal shield itself, so you don't need a specific shield. And so on. So it's super exciting, and the campaign for this game is actually really, really long. I have never completed the game because I got to a part and I didn't actually know how to proceed. So I actually got stuck when I was younger in this game, but I really did enjoy this one. And getting back to listening to the music, I really do enjoy the music as well. It's more to the ambient part of music, so you can have this kind of depth into the melodies and the percussions and everything. So I really do enjoy it, but I wouldn't say it's my daily kind of dose of what I need when it comes to video games. But I really will continue to listen to this soundtrack to see what else is there on this game. And I really hope you guys really like this one as well, because I really like listening to the more upbeat kind of tunes. So going into this area feels a little bit more uncharted area, both for me, but also providing it into the podcast as well. Because I myself are more to the exciting, I would say almost adrenaline rush when you're listening to music, and happiness. So that's what I really like when it comes to music per se, but Rune, great game. Next game we're going to pick up here is actually a requested song here, so I'm actually gonna read Karuchi's testimonial here, so let's go. I choose to interpret hack and slash as fighting games in isometric or three-dimensional environments, or a camera with a bird's view, where the goal is to kill all the enemies before you move on. Mostly to not confuse it with brawlers and 2D scrolling, where there is a subgenre that is nearly identical to what we're talking about today. Therefore, I will include games such as Bayonetta and Asuro's Wrath into this genre. And with the definition out of the way, I can say that I've hardly played any hack and slash games. No, really. I have hardly played Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, Ninja Gaiden, or Gods of War. But I did see Gauntlet on many different lists of games from the genre. And that's a game that I've played a lot, and the music is so freaking good. So, what about the song Swordy from Gauntlet 4, from the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis version? It's adventure, heroism, and camaraderie. Everything baked into a march music that fits all too well in a game like Gauntlet. This is one of many games in my backlog that me and my friends hope to play again at some games night. Hopefully it will be soon. Thank you so much for this request, Karuchi, and now everybody, let's enjoy Swordy from Gauntlet 4. Oh my god, seriously, Karuchi, this was a freaking banger. People might know already that I'm not too used to play or take music from games that existed on the Sega Mega Drive, Sega Genesis, and all the Segas, basically. I did not own a single console. I only had a couple of friends that actually had this one, and it weren't really close friends either, so I hardly played this at all. It was mostly like PlayStation, Sony PlayStations and Nintendo consoles in my near friendship circle, so to speak. But damn, this was Swordy from the Gauntlet 4 game. Holy moly, damn. Usually I don't play songs this long, but this was such a banger. I couldn't really stop. I was like, am I going to pick the whole track so everybody can just enjoy this? But nah, I'm trying not to play full songs in every way I can, at least, because usually if you play full songs, people can just rip them off from your podcast and stuff like that, and I don't want to be that guy. So I rather just have the music in the background and just enjoy short bits of this music instead, and focus on the composers behind this music and just enjoy what they've done till this point, and even forward from that point as well. But yeah, when it comes to the soundtrack here, the composers were the Japanese Hitoshi Sakimoto and Masaharu Iwata. The game, it was developed by the American company Atari Games Corporation, or more known as Midway Games West, after Warner Bros. Bought them, but the studio was closed down back in 2003. The game was released back in 1993, and this game was also exclusively released for the Sega Genesis or the Sega Mega Drive if you live in Europe. And when it comes to both of these composers, they have a pretty wide and pretty long credits list. So let's start, and I'm just gonna handpick a few games here because they're so freaking long. But when it comes to the first composer here, Hitoshi, he started out back in 1988, and his first game was the adult game Starship Rendezvous, which I just had to Google a little bit more about this game, and it's such a weird game. It's basically a game where you go around and getting items that you, in the end, on the boss on each level, which is a girl, you utilize these items on the girls to get them undressed and so on. And it's so freaking weird when it comes to this game. I was like, what the hell? This is so weird. But yeah. And since I said, since it is such a long list, I will just name a few games here going forward here. So first of all, we have The Magical Chase from 1991, Ogre Battle 1993, Radiant Silvergun from 1998, Odin's Sphere back in 2007, Dragon's Crown 2013, and the last game Hitoshi has worked on, from his credit list at least, is The 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim back in 2019. The second composer here, Masaharu, have worked on a couple of other games, but also worked together with Hitoshi. But he did start a year earlier, with his first work being Fantasy Zone from 1987. Some other games that Masaharu worked on that Hitoshi did not work on are Baseball Stars 2 from 1992, Bloody Roar 2, 1998, Final Fantasy 12 from 2006, Suikoden Traikres from 2008, Half Minute Hero, The Second Coming, 2014, and lastly, Final Fantasy 12, The Zodiac Age, back in 2017. And it's super interesting looking at these guys, because they have so many different games in common, which is super interesting as well, especially when you're looking at the game list where they have, I think it was at least 30 games, both of them. So it's super interesting to see kind of where they come from and what they have been doing, and especially that they have been doing a lot of these soundtracks together with each other. So it's super sweet to see those kind of things. And when it comes to Gauntlet, I do not have that much experience with this game. I think I've played it on some sort of collection CD or something like that for an Xbox, I might, if I remember correctly. But I've also tried, we actually had a technical museum in Stockholm, and this was the Game On exhibition. So they had a lot of different games. They have arts and concepts and everything, basically. I think I only found a couple of clones that did not exist on this exhibition, but it was super interesting, and I actually got to play on the original arcade game, this first Gauntlet game, and it was super fun. I only played by myself, but I still had super fun, and I think this might also be the first arcade machine that I saw that actually had 4 different joysticks, so you can actually play 4 players in the first arcade machine of Gauntlet. So it was super interesting to see that, and I have no clue about the 4th game. So I think if Karuchi wanna be so kind, he maybe can fill me out with what's so great about Gauntlet and what it is. Maybe I can just check up some videos of it, or if Karuchi himself can send me some videos that he recommends from this game, so I can get a good glimpse on what we can expect with this game. It will be super fun, and I think it will be super fun to actually continue listening to a little bit more of this soundtrack, because damn, this was a banger. I really enjoyed this tune, so thank you so much, Karuchi. Thank you so much. Next, game to continue with. It's one of my favorite series to date, and I really do enjoy. And they did release a spin-off, and they did release a fourth game in the series, but I totally neglect those and just see this as a perfect, super sweet trilogy. So let's enjoy from the second game, Prince of Persia: Warrior Within, and the song Mystic Sanctuary. This was a short one. This was just like 1 minute long, so enjoy the full one because it's kind of a unique one and it felt quite weird shortening this one up. But this was the Mystic Sanctuary from the second game of the Prince of Persia Sands of Time series, and the game was called Prince of Persia: Warrior Within. And yeah, I really do love this series. I really enjoyed this so freaking much, and especially with the Warrior Within addition to this trilogy. When it comes to the first game, I really did enjoy all the puzzles and how they had the storytelling implemented together with the game mechanics. For those who have not played this one, you can basically go around and play around with time. So if you make a mistake or something like that, you will basically just be able to turn back the time to redo certain steps again in the different puzzles. So you don't really have to start over and over again if you make smaller mistakes that kind of punishes you a lot. In case you did not have enough sand to turn back the time and so on. But I really enjoyed what Warrior Within did with this, with the franchise of Prince of Persia, because in the first game of Sands of Time here, we actually have a game where it's not very, I would say, evolved combat. Because usually when you started playing this game, you started to notice many different problems, especially that you just found one different pattern that worked like every time, except for, I think it was like one enemy. So when that didn't work, then you just put in another type of maneuver that you used to kind of get over that kind of, what would I say? That type of challenge when it comes to different enemies and forms. And when it comes to this game, this is a 3D game where you basically run around in a third-person kind of view, but you can still turn around the camera to get a better glimpse around the different... because you move around between many types of traps within this game. You're moving around on pillars and walls and everything. And I really enjoy this one. And looking at the Warrior Within, they added way more combat maneuvers that you can do. And you felt like Eddie from Tekken when you played Prince of Persia. You're breakdancing through all these different enemies, and it felt so freaking good. So freaking good. And I really enjoyed the music to this game as well. This is one of the few games that I actually listened to the music, but I was so invented into this game, so the music didn't make a large imprint on me. Not it was super good, not super bad either. The music in this game just set the mood so freaking good that it kind of just felt like it is supposed to be there, and it felt so great all the time. And I really enjoyed it. There was no music that kind of pulled me out of the experience or the immersion of this game. I was the prince. I was badass like hell. So freaking good. So freaking good. But enough talking about the Prince of Persia game here. Let's talk about the soundtrack. It was composed and recorded by the British guy Stuart Chatwood, and also the Australian-American Inon Sur. Inon Sur, we talked about him multiple times, but more information soon. The game was developed by the Canadian studio Ubisoft Divertiments, also known as Ubisoft Montreal. The game was released back in 2004 and was initially released on GameCube, PS2, PC, and Xbox. The game was also ported at a later date to iOS devices back in 2010, but also got on digital release on PS3 the same year. When it comes to the first composer here, Stuart, he has a small list of video game compositions, but his first game was a song for the game Road Rash 3D that released back in 1998. And this was mostly recorded because of the band he had, so there's only one song that he worked on in that game. But after that, he started working on the Prince of Persia series, and from the start with the Prince of Persia Sands of Time, till this last game in the series, which was the standalone or spin-off named The Prince of Persia back in 2008. And this was the more artsy one, where you basically have a pretty funny prince going around. And it was more acrobatic and more focused on the traps and everything, and kind of solving the puzzles and traversing the areas, and not focused on battles at all. You had only boss battles in this one. But his latest work within video game music was for the dark roguelike game Darkest Dungeon, which was released back in 2015. And as I said before, we have listened to Inon Sur's music before on this podcast, and especially from the Prince of Persia series as well, because I do really love and enjoy this series. But it was a long time since we talked about him since the last time, and ever since then he has released 4 new games that have come out. We have Pathfinder Kingsmaker, Fallout 76, Durango Wild Lands, and all these games were released back in 2018, and his latest work was for Black Sad Under the Skin that was released back in 2019. And I really enjoy the music for this. Stuart mostly just have credits from Prince of Persia games, so I really do enjoy the aesthetics and what they have done with the music. And I do believe that Inon Sur played a large role in that part, because when you're listening to the Prince of Persia soundtracks, it goes so well together and it works so freaking good, I would say, when listening to Inon Sur's other work, because he's really good at finding the right mood for soundtracks, and that's a really nice thing to have, I would say, but it's really nice to see that it does have it as well. So, and looking at his different kind of music and what he has done, I think that Inon Sur is more classically wise when it comes to music. So I think I will actually head into, I don't remember if we actually had an Inon Sur, but most likely if we haven't done an Inon Sur podcast yet, I think I will definitely write him up, and we will take care of that problem in the near future, because damn, he has worked on a lot of music for different kind of games and genres, so it's going to be super interesting to actually dig up and look a little bit into his background, so to speak. So yeah. Last game for this week, and I got this request quite early, and it's super short when it comes to the testimonial here. It's from Hobbit BJJ, and he just does an exclamation mark. Kerberos Battle from Devil May Cry 3 exclamation mark, and that's all I got. So let's enjoy, everybody, the Kerberos Battle from Devil May Cry 3, a request from Hobbit BJJ. I'm actually out of words here, because when I started listening to it, I was like, damn, this is good. This is really good. And then they started singing it, and it totally just took me by surprise. I was like, do they have song within a battle? That felt so weird. So I just had to look it up. I was like, is this for real? And yeah, they actually have this text while you're hacking and slashing this demon Kerberos battle boss. It's insane. I kind of like it, but I kind of dislike it at the same time. It's like, I don't know what I really think about this song. It is really good. I really like the melody in this one. It's so heavy. It defines to me what I know of within Devil May Cry. I haven't played many Devil May Cry games, but for me, when I'm listening to this, I can definitely like, yeah, this is Devil May Cry. No worries about that. I'm totally down for this one. So yeah, this was the Kerberos battle theme from Devil May Cry 3, and it was a request from Hobbit BJJ. So thank you so much for this request. It felt so weird, but yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I have no idea, but because when it comes to the lyrics of this song, it feels more like mumbling to me rather than something he's singing. Maybe I'm not listening close enough or something like that, but as soon as I'm just increasing the volume, it feels like I'm just hearing more guitars. I don't hear more vocals within this track, so maybe I should check up and see what the hell they're actually singing within this game as well, because it might be actually interesting to see what they're actually singing about within this game during this battle. I mean, it felt like when I looked at a gameplay tutorial, not tutorial, but walkthrough of this game, and looked at this battle specifically, it felt like it's a really small room where you basically battle this demon dog. And yeah, this singing part just felt so out of context when you're going through it, because before, when I was talking about Prince of Persia and the Warrior Within, you kind of felt like you're there together with the music. It sets up good ambience to the experience itself. Here, it kind of pulls you out of the experience, at least for me when looking at it. But I haven't played the third game, so I do not know if it actually does that when you get to that point in the game. Because when you're at that point, maybe it feels so much more common to this game that it just draws you into the experience instead, and having a great kind of a impact on you as a gamer while you're doing this boss battle. But other than that, I can only say that I really did enjoy this one, but it's just the lyrics that felt so off to me and kind of pulled me out. So that's the thing, that's the part I kind of dislike with this one. But yeah, when it comes to the soundtrack here, we have two Japanese composers here. We have the main composer, Tetsuya Chibata, and the Japanese assistant composer, Kento Hasegawa. The game was developed by the Japanese developer Capcom, and more specifically the Capcom Production Studio 1 out of a numbering of 5. So there are 5 different studios. And when it comes to this specific studio, the Studio 1, they are the studio that mainly work with the Capcom's fighting franchise. And when it comes to Devil May Cry 3, that game was released on the PS2 back in 2005. And looking here at the composer, so we will start with the main composer, Tetsuya. He has a pretty decent list of many games, and almost every game is from Capcom. Tetsuya started out back in 1997, with the first game being The Vampire Hunter or The Vampire Savior. And this was the second game in the series. Some other games he has worked with the music is Power Stone from 1999, Heavy Metal Geomatrix from 2001, Monster Hunter 2004, Devil May Cry 4 2008, and we're getting back here to another game for those who remember still the composer Masaharu. We have the Half-Minute Hero The Second Coming back in 2004. He also worked on Final Fantasy 15, the episode Galidilus, back in 2007, and lastly, the Resident Evil 5 Gold Edition, which was released back in 2019. Looking at the assistant composer here, Kento's first game was the Resident Evil Outbreak File 2 back in 2014. He also worked on the Mega Man X remake, Mega Man Maverick Hunter X, from 2005, which is basically like I wouldn't really say an HD update, but they did add a couple of cinematics to kind of bring the story together a little bit more than there is in the Super Nintendo version. We also have Izuma 11 Strikers back in 2011, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutants in Manhattan 2016, Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet back in 2018, and lastly, and the recently released game Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection, which released now just in February this year. And looking at Kento, he does have some more games, but I cannot go through them all. But I basically missed just a handful more. And when you're looking at these two composers here, I kind of find it interesting because when you're looking at Kento, he has worked on a lot wider spread than Tetsuya have done when it comes to the different games that he worked on. So it's not just Capcom games and their fighting franchise that Kento has been working on. He has some sports games, some racing games, and then you have all the other games that I kind of took up as well. But most of them have some sort of fighting in them, in either way. It's not just hack and slash, it's more beat them up, some of them, so to speak. But yeah, when it comes to Devil May Cry, I haven't played many of them. I played the fourth game a little bit, the one when you can play Nero, because I really do enjoy that kind of a saw blade mechanic that they do have in that game. But I did not complete that game, but I did really enjoy that one, so yeah. But that's basically because I'm really bad at juggling. I really like going wild and destroying enemies and hordes of them especially, but not too many hordes as well, because in my opinion there's a fine line here, because looking at Devil May Cry, it's more technically, I would say technically challenging, using your experience within the game to kind of utilize and destroy the enemy hordes that you meet here. Sometimes it's insane combos that you need to do to kind of have enemies flying out up in the air and you totally obliterate them up there. But then you also have other series like the Dynasty Warrior series, where you're basically fighting like 10,000s of enemies, and just with one swing you can kill like 100 enemies. And I think that's still a small number when it comes to that series, but because when you're looking at it, it feels like sometimes you can have like a hit combo of like 10,000 and so on. And that's just insane. When it comes to that game, those games, in my opinion, are super repetitive and boring. I haven't played specifically the Dynasty Warrior series, but I have played other games that kind of play on the same mechanic that the Dynasty Warriors does have, such as the Pirate Warrior game from which is the One Piece thematic one. You also have the Hyrule Legends, or I don't remember the exact name now, but with a Zelda thematic with the same kind of Dynasty Warrior mechanics added upon it. So there's a lot of different games. No, it's Hyrule Warriors, I remember now. But there's a lot of different games out there within the hack and slash genre. And when it comes, for me, hack and slash has always been more true over to the Diablo side of things. So when I grew up, I played Diablo, I played Torchlight, and other games within the same kind of esque thing. Is you have Nox, for example. What else games? I think I don't remember them all by memory right now. I think if I'm just taking a couple of minutes and looking at them back, there's a lot of more other games within the same kind of perspective as Diablo that I really did enjoy when I was growing up and playing. Silver is one of them as well. I just remember another one. And most definitely, if I just take more time, I can just sit here and just throw out many other games that I really did enjoy when growing up and playing the hack and slash genre. But going into the more strategical ones, where key presses and button presses are super important to when you do them sometimes, just like the Devil May Cry series. I'm just utterly bad at them. I'm more of a button masher when it comes to that part, so that's why I cannot for my life play games like the Soul series. I'm just utterly trash at them. But music-wise, when it comes to these type of games, we know they have more richness to the soundtracks themselves. More often, I would say they're more to the dark side, or they're trying to be more ambient towards the experience, because killing off this many enemies, and if you had a song that kind of more to the adrenaline kind of feeling, you will get stressed, and a lot of it. You will have so much pressure on you while playing these type of games with more hectic music, and I don't think that would per se be a good experience. And that's why I really do enjoy having these type of games pulling you back a little bit with the music itself, to kind of compensate for what's happening within the experience itself. So I really do enjoy this type of genre, and I really enjoy going back and listening to these soundtracks. So thank you so much, Karuchi and Hobbit, for requesting songs for this week's episode. It kind of brings, and that's what I'm always saying when I'm taking it up, at least, because I'm not saying it each and every episode, but it's super fun when you guys actually suggest songs, because you usually suggest songs from games I haven't played myself. So it's super interesting, and also it's a great way for me to get to know you guys, the listeners. So thank you so much for being a part of the podcast as well. But it's time to finish this one up. So other episodes of Finally Game Music, you'll find them on the homepage videospelsklubben.se, Spotify, or in your closest podcast app. Feel free to follow and also comment on one of our social media, such as Facebook or Instagram. Just search for Antligen Spelmusik. You have the name within the podcast apps and such. And if you would like to hear your name within one of these episodes, you can either request a song for an upcoming episode by commenting on any of our social media pages, or joining our Discord server that you'll find the address on videospelsklubben.se. And you can also support this podcast for future content, quality updates, and also, in the end, future composers. And you can do that by becoming one of the Patreons today. And our current awesome backers that we have today is Mikael Sjöberg, Andreas Nilsson, and Daniel Onemark. Thank you so much for being a part of the Patreons and supporting this podcast. I really do love you all for hanging out with me and doing this. It really brings a smile to my face just thinking each and every week that you support what I'm doing. It really warms my heart. So links where you can either buy or support the composers behind the music that we listen to this week, you'll find those in the main post on videospelsklubben.se. Next week is gonna be a little bit special because I will be super busy this week. So the next episode will already be recorded as you'll hear this. So you will not be able to get any comment or request any songs for next week. So the thematic for the next week is going to be a Warp Zone yet again. So this will be the 4th installation for the Warp Zone series. So I will just basically pick up a couple of songs and play them to you guys and talk about the composers. So it will be a little bit special next week because it won't be 4 unique songs. It will from different games, that is. It will be 2 different games, and I will pick 2 songs from each and every of those 2 games. But more on that you will get to know next week. But until then, do take care, everybody, and have a great week.